Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Cameron Tucker. Here are your top stories on Thursday, the 4th of December. Still unsafe. Tunbridge Wells enters 6th day of water crisis.
I think it is absolutely diabolical and that the bloke that works for South East Water should be fired.
A witch hunt. Maidstone Council leader who called for historic pardon survives no confidence vote.
My style is my style. The fact I crack the occasional joke at the start of a meeting, I think is a good thing.
Yippee-ki-yay or nay? Is Die Hard a Christmas film? Kent Film Club's Chris Deasy is here to put the debate to bed.
Yeah. It's a Christmas film.
Do I think it's a Christmas movie? It has Christmas in it.
But first, our top story this evening, a crushing blow for business in Tunbridge Wells. As the water crisis enters its 6th day, business owners and leaders in the town have spoken of how crippling it has been in the run-up to Christmas. South East Water have said more than 23,000 of the 24,000 properties impacted were now reconnected, but for many, the damage has already been done. Chloe Brewster has been following the story all week and joins us from the town now. Chloe, we'll come on to the business impact shortly, but what updates have you got for us today?
Yeah, so as you say, water has returned to several properties here, though that water isn't necessarily drinkable. The head of South East Water actually spoke to us. No, he didn't. Dr. Neil Hudson, head of water quality at South East Water, spoke to us earlier about some of the lessons that he learned from a similar issue which took place 3 years ago.
I think it is a very different issue. We have done a lot. We've put an awful lot of investment into our alternate waters, to our tanker fleet, which has been helping to support the area in terms of our bottled water stations set up. Also investment in the network as well. Obviously, this is something that takes a period of time to deliver. Yeah, in our most recent business plan, the need for investment across our whole network has been recognised through the regulator Ofwat by a significantly increased amount of money. So this is something that does take time and money to fix, but we are fixing this issue. In terms of compensation, that is definitely something we're looking at. We have guaranteed standards of service in terms of providing a wholesome supply to customers. That's set out on our website. So we will be upholding that, definitely. But the key message at this point is really making sure that everyone's aware of that need from the public health point of view to boil water before they drink.
Yeah, so water has returned here, and while chemically safe, a fault in the disinfection process meant that all the water here must be boiled before drinking, eating or cooking. Support is still available. There are water bottled stations around the town, and if you can just see behind me there, those are the Portaloos. I'm in the town centre, and those are still available for people to use.
We were saying earlier on there's been a significant impact to businesses. We've been talking to business leaders today. I know you're going to be exploring the story as it continues as well. But just give us a bit of an idea of, there on the ground, what the impact on businesses has been.
Yeah, so just walking up here, Cameron, it was clear that so many businesses haven't been able to open. It's about half and half. I'm stood opposite Pret a Manger, and that's closed, but there's a Cafe Nero behind me that's open. So it's clearly on the decision of the hospitality businesses. But it's not just businesses that have been affected. It's schools, it's nurseries, it's health settings. They all remain closed. It's obviously going to be a huge impact if these businesses stay closed for up to a week. We spoke to Alex Green, the CEO of local business lobby Royal Tunbridge Wells Together, and he told us about the real impact on businesses here.
It's a really challenging scenario that ourselves and the Borough Council are working hard to give as much advice and guidance as possible to really help them get them to reopen and operate as effectively as possible. From a financial perspective at the moment, it is very limited that we, along with the Borough Council and our local MP, are working hard to see if we can do something different. But as it stands, the water company is not forthcoming with offering any significant compensation, which I think is quite disappointing, because if South East Water were told none of their customers are going to pay them anything for 2 weeks for factors beyond their control, I'm sure they'd want to get some compensation. So personally, I think they should be compensating the businesses which have really lost out from this.
Thank you, Chloe there. Now, elsewhere in the county, Affinity Water has confirmed there's no water around several areas of Folkestone Hythe and Ashford due to a burst pipe. Villages and residential streets have been affected, leaving households relying on bottled water while engineers work to isolate the damaged section. Authorities say the break has caused significant pressure drops across the network and warn that full restoration may take some time. Workers are currently carrying out emergency repairs, with temporary water stations being set up for most affected. More than 250 flats in Ashford have been left abandoned after the developer behind them walked away from the project. Vidi Construction had signed a £62.3 million contract to build the homes in Victoria Road close to the town centre, but the company fell into administration in September and the site has sat abandoned ever since. Once marketed as a modern housing solution, the buildings have been left empty and unfinished, prompting concern among local residents. A 19-year-old driver has been jailed after crashing a stolen car into an ambulance in Medway, injuring 2 paramedics. Police say the blue Volkswagen Golf was being driven dangerously on the M2 and reached speeds of more than 100 miles an hour during the pursuit. The driver left the motorway at junction 4 before ploughing into an ambulance on a Gillingham roundabout, causing it to overturn. The driver, Harry Foster Smith, fled on foot but was found in a nearby woodland carrying Class B drugs. He admitted multiple offences, including dangerous driving and aggravated vehicle taking, and has been sentenced for 2 years and 8 months and banned from driving for 3 years. Here is a clip from the scene.
All right, keep coming towards me, okay? I'm going to move over to this side. I want you to walk up there, through that opening where my torch is, and just keep walking up that way, okay?
The role of General Manager at a leading Kent attraction has been axed amid rising costs and expansion plans. The Kent and East Sussex Railway, based in Tenterden, has announced Dr Robin Coombs, who took up the role in August 2022, will leave his post in January. As part of the railway's budget review, it's decided a restructure that will see the position of General Manager removed and its duties handed out to other existing directors and managers. Dr Coombs has stated he isn't disappointed in the decision and that he'll remain a passionate supporter of KESR. Maidstone Borough Council's leader has survived a no-confidence vote called by the Conservative opposition. In recent months, Stuart Jeffrey has been in the spotlight after calling for witches to be posthumously pardoned and for calling for rights for rivers. His critics say these motions don't reflect serious leadership, as our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader heard during a heated council meeting.
A motion like this is never taken lightly, but when leadership repeatedly drifts from its core mission, when priorities become misaligned, and when residents feel the consequences every day, we have a duty to act.
A war of words over pardoning witches and rights for rivers, as the usually collaborative atmosphere of Maidstone Borough Council was shattered by a no-confidence vote in the Green leader Stuart Jeffrey, called by the Conservative group over what they described as a focus on thematic motions rather than real council business.
Whilst residents begged for improved community safety, bins to be collected, we debated writing a letter to the government about reducing the voting age to 16, frustrations with foreign conflicts, Maidstone Witches Memorial, which did put us on the map because it made us an embarrassment.
The Conservatives are the single largest party within the council, but still a minority when facing down the combined strength of the Liberal Democrats and Greens, who easily defeated the motion 28 votes to 14, while defending their record of delivery and unusual style of governance.
The fact I'm making a name for Maidstone, I think, is a good thing. These are really important things to do, to focus on the town and the people within it and the inclusivity of the people within it. So I'm pleased that, you know, yes, people might not like my style, but I'm not only delivering the programme I promised, but I'm able to reach out and and engage with the community in the way I do.
With Maidstone Borough Council set to be abolished under government plans in the coming years, the next few months are going to be critical to get the final projects for the authority over the line. Was this vote of no confidence just an unnecessary witch hunt?
I think it was the perfect use of council time. I mean, I don't do any of these things for myself, or for ourselves as our group. We do it for our residents, and residents were questioning us. So it's only right that we question him. With robust opposition comes better leadership, and hopefully that's what this is even going to achieve.
Stuart Jeffrey may have won that vote of no confidence, but it is clear there's still major scrutiny around his leadership style from opposition councillors, and that's not going away anytime soon. Ollie Leader in Maidstone.
Ollie Leader there. Now it's time for a quick break, but coming up, our reporter Etalie Reynolds tells us about an incident in Neats Court retail outlet in Sheppey where residents are claiming they've been unfairly fined due to faulty Europcar-owned car park security cameras. A father in Folkestone has received a large payout after a long-running dispute, and we'll also have all the business roundups from across the county and some web promos. All of that to come, as well as the weather, after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Drivers are having to find CCTV to prove they've been incorrectly fined for overstaying in a Sheppey shopping complex car park. Shoppers say they've been hit with £100 penalty notices at Neates Court in error. Having visited the Queenborough outlet on consecutive days, the cameras had apparently not detected the fact they'd driven away after their first trip. Esley Reynolds has the story.
In 2022, Neates Court retail outlet car park in Sheppey introduced time limits, which restricted customers to a maximum of 3 hours of parking. But now, many shoppers have been incorrectly fined for overstaying. Drivers have been entering the car park, then leaving, then returning the next day, yet the cameras at the car park failed to detect the vehicles originally leaving. Many residents are now having to turn to various forms of CCTV footage in order to prove that they actually left the car park. Amongst those is lifelong Sheppey resident John French, who was fined back in May for staying over 20 hours. He managed to beat the fine after using a neighbour's Ring doorbell to prove he had visited the retail park on 2 separate days.
I was absolutely seething because I thought, well, I've never got a parking ticket in my life, and I'm not going to start now, not at my age anyway. No apology letter, no nothing. So I'm really, really disappointed because I don't know what they put people through.
However, others are finding it difficult to get in contact with parking management firm Euro Car Parks. Cliff Combaugh's wife had received a fine that incorrectly stated she had stayed for over 30 hours. Since appealing, the couple have acquired new CCTV footage to show they left, but they are struggling to submit it.
I've tried to get in touch with Euro Car Parks and you can't get in touch with them because I wanted to give them the evidence to say you can't phone them, you can't email them, you can't do nothing. I think you've got to, the only way I think you've got to physically write them a letter. I think there's an address and that's it. So at the moment, they haven't got my evidence. It's just I've got to wait and see what happens. You know, these big companies, we want £100. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't talk to us, you can't email us, you can't phone us, you can't do nothing. You know, it's not fair, really. It's not fair.
Euro Car Parks have been approached for comment. Esley Reynolds for KMTV.
Now, a father has received a £390,000 payout by an electrical firm after a long-running dispute over the cause of a fire that destroyed his family's home. David Sercombe has been fighting for a settlement from Sean Davey Electrical Limited after a fire ripped through his family's home back in 2020 while renovation work was ongoing. The Folkestone company has denied negligence but has accepted a payout out of a commercial basis without admission of liability. David and his daughter Bronte spoke to us about their experience.
I was at home on a business call and I was alerted by our kitchen fitter that there was a fire developing behind a wall in the kitchen, which was under our main staircase.
So obviously on that morning I was asleep in bed still, and I was first alerted to what was going on. Obviously I didn't know what was going on until I opened my door, but I was first alerted to something happening when I heard my dad absolutely screaming my name in a way that he's never screamed my name before. So it made me like jump. Obviously I was fast asleep.
When I saw what was going on in the hallway, there was black smoke pouring out of the door down into the cellar, and the stairwell acted like a chimney, and the entire landing was in thick black toxic smoke, and somehow I managed to get up the stairs to rescue my daughter Bronte, who was asleep in bed, who was unaware of what was going on.
And then I got down first, and then when Dad was getting down, I had the phone, and I was on the phone to the emergency services, and once we were both safely on the floor, we then walked round to the front of the house, obviously to kind of see what was going on, and that was when I just lost it. I was couldn't believe the extent of it.
There is no question that had I not have been working from home that morning, I think with all certainty, I think Bronte would have died. I think that's something that I have to live with for the rest of my life and feel so grateful for. Although we lost our home, all our contents, we had to have our dog put down, I still maintain we were so lucky that day.
Now we catch up with the latest business news with David Brooks-Horsley.
Here is your business roundup for December 4th, 2025. A 25-hectare chalk pit solar farm between Guston and East Langdon near Dover has begun development after its approval by Dover District Council in 2022. Operated by German renewables firm GreenTech, once complete, the farm will provide renewable energy for more than 7,500 homes with a proposed completion date for the summer of 2026. Managing Director for GreenTech UK, Yaar Ofori, has said once operational it will reduce CO2 emissions by 10,000 tonnes per year for its 40-year operational lifespan. Local Kent County cycle business Evan Cycles opens its second branch on Fremlin Walk in Maidstone on Friday, December 5th. Currently, Evan Cycles has the one store in Kent at Maybrook Retail Park in Canterbury. The new shop will hold over 125 bikes on display, including big brands like Trek, Brompton and Cube. And if your cycle requires any repairs or tune-ups, Evan Cycles will be your one-stop shop with its offering of full-service workshops and on-the-spot fixes. Ashford's Curious Brewery and Tap Room sees a £100,000 investment by owners Sunrise Beverages. These investments will boost production capabilities and efficiencies, and improvements have been promised to continue into 2026. Sunrise Beverages describes itself as a collection of independent breweries and has stated that its investments into the Curious business will optimise the overall brewing process. Curious Brewery's head of production, Wes Lynch, has added that it is an exciting time to work for Sunrise. And more news for Ashford. Viddy Construction has gone into administration, leaving 257 flats on Victoria Road unfinished and abandoned. The company fell into administration in September after having worked in partnership with Starlight Investments for construction. With a crane towering over the half-built blocks wrapped in tarpaulin, one commenter noted that the site is an overbearing eyesore. After already missing the original 2023 target, will the site meet its new 2025 completion deadline?
David Brooks-Horsley there. Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one, about how businesses in Gillingham are being impacted by the autumn budget.
Last year, the Labour government unveiled their first budget of this parliament, met with mixed opinions and controversy. One of the Chancellor's measures that caused a stir was raising employers' national insurance contributions. From April this year, the rate for these contributions increased from 13.8% to 15%, as well as the threshold to start paying these decreasing from £9,100 to £5,000 each year. This approximated that employers would be paying an extra £900 for each employee. Rachel Reeves explained she needed to make difficult decisions to balance the books.
But we're not in Parliament now, and I'm here in Gillingham to find out what Kent residents really feel.
Farooq Kapoor has owned Oasis Cafe in Gillingham for 25 years, with his business experiencing problems since 2020. Raising NI contributions came at a terrible time.
Last year, the government changed national insurance, so employers like you had to pay much more.
Yes, it's more. Yes, of course. Everything is going more difficult now. Everything's going up. I don't know. I am struggling now. I decided I don't know what can I do. All the taxes, something like that, though, but I don't know where is the money is going. Look at this in our promises.
Likewise, Amir Kuti, who owns Patiri Restaurant in Gillingham, is already struggling against a tide of rising costs and flagging footfall.
Yes. Expensive, more expensive. Last year also is going the wages.
Unistar Health Consultants is owned by Eunice, who is calling on the government to sympathise with owners like her this Wednesday.
It has been going up. Well, it went up last year, and we're not sure. The budget is on the way now, so we're not sure if it's going to all go up again. But definitely, it really affected the business last year. So everything went up, not even the NI, the pension, everything went up. So, yeah, honestly, if government can look at it and see what they can do for us. Yeah, honestly, because the small businesses, we are really struggling.
I don't think anybody expected an increase in employers' national insurance contributions, and that has massively affected the appetite of businesses to grow. So it'd be interesting to see if they do make a change on that. I certainly think that it has been a break on what they call growth. I think growth for growth's sake is pretty meaningless. But we need a healthy economy.
But with the budget round the corner, all councillors, small business owners and residents alike can do is wait. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gillingham.
And in the last couple of hours, forecasters have issued a yellow weather warning for fog across parts of Kent. The Met Office alert is in place from midnight until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and people are being warned that there may be travel delays in the morning. Now, here's the rest of the weather. Very low temperatures, between 2 and 4 degrees across the county overnight. Wind speeds going up to 7 degrees. That won't be going too much higher into tomorrow morning. Wind speeds of 6 degrees in the west. Those going up to 14 miles per hour in the east in the afternoon. And into the weekend, lots of rain throughout Saturday and Sunday. Highs of 14 degrees on Sunday. All that dissipating on Monday. Now, time for another short break, but when we come back, we'll be taking a look again at our top story as the water crisis enters its 6th day in Tunbridge Wells. We'll be looking back at Chloe's report earlier on. Our reporter Maisie Walker will be telling us about a recent murder case in the county, and we'll also be looking at one of our Kent Tonight specials ahead of it going on after the show. See you in a few moments' time. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. Here's a reminder of your top stories on Thursday, the 4th of December. Still unsafe, Tunbridge Wells enters 6th day of water crisis. A witch hunt, Maidstone Council leader who called for historic pardon survives no confidence vote. And yippee-ki-yay or nay, is Die Hard a Christmas film? Kent Film Club's Chris Deasy is here to put the debate to bed. Now look back at our top story this evening, a crushing blow for business in Tunbridge Wells. As the water crisis enters its 6th day, business owners and leaders in the town have spoken of how crippling it's been in the run-up to Christmas. South East Water have said more than 23,000 of the 24,000 properties impacted were now reconnected. But for many, the damage has already been done. We heard from Chloe Brewster a little earlier on from the middle of Tunbridge Wells with an update on this story. So day 6, what are the updates, Chloe?
Well, I'm here in Tunbridge Wells Town Centre, stood just outside the public urinals that have been set up. No, it's obviously a stressful time. The water has now returned to some properties in Tunbridge Wells now, but that water is actually undrinkable. That water can be used for showering, for the boiler, but can't be used for drinking. Any water that's used for drinking or for brushing teeth, that's all having to be boiled first. Obviously, slightly irritating for the people here. We actually spoke to Dr. Neil Hudson, Head of Water Quality at South East Water, who told us about lessons to be learnt for South East Water before talking about compensation for customers.
I think it is a very different issue. We have done a lot. We've put an awful lot of investment into our alternate waters, to our tanker fleet, which has been helping to support the area in terms of our bottled water stations set up. Also investment in the network as well. Obviously, this is something that takes a period of time to deliver. Yeah, in our most recent business plan, the need for investment across our whole network has been recognised through the regulator Ofwat by a significantly increased amount of money. So this is something that does take time and money to fix, but we are fixing this issue. In terms of compensation, that is definitely something we're looking at. We have guaranteed standards of service in terms of providing a wholesome supply to customers. That's set out on our website. So we will be upholding that, definitely. But I think the key message at this point is really making sure that everyone's aware of that need from the public health point of view to boil water before they drink.
You know, it's clear to see the scale of the impact on businesses here. Just walking up the high street now, about half the shops and restaurants are closed. I'm actually just stood opposite a Pret a Manger that has a sign in the window saying they're closed. Obviously, it's not just businesses that have been impacted, it's schools, it's health settings, it's causing so many issues for people here. We actually spoke to Alex Green, the CEO of local business lobby group Royal Tunbridge Wells Together, who spoke about the actual real impact on businesses.
It's a really challenging scenario that ourselves and the Borough Council are working hard to give as much advice and guidance as possible to really help them get them reopen and operate as effectively as possible. From a financial perspective at the moment, it is very limited that we, along with the Borough Council and our local MP, are working hard to see if we can do something different. But as it stands, the water company is not forthcoming with offering any significant compensation, which I think is quite disappointing because if South East Water were told none of their customers are going to pay them anything for 2 weeks for factors beyond their control, I'm sure they'd want to get some compensation. So personally, I think they should be compensating the businesses which have really lost out from this.
Next, the Canterbury girlfriend of a young man fatally stabbed during a late-night walk to buy a bottle of Coke has described how his death has broken her. Mohammed Hagar murdered 23-year-old Samara Goreshka here in what a judge has described as senseless and brutal violence and the final and tragic culmination of ongoing animosity between two groups. Maisie Walker joins me now to tell us more. So, Maisie, talk us through what happened in this obviously very tragic case.
Yeah, so Samar was a part of the homeless community living in a tent camp near Canterbury East Station. He was with his girlfriend Shannon and some other acquaintances in the Canterbury city centre on October the 10th last year. At about 11:30 p.m, they came across Hagar and confrontation followed. It was described as violent, noisy and fast-moving. Glass bottles were thrown, weapons were shown, and a punch was delivered before Hagar stabbed Samir once in the chest. His friends, police and paramedics tried to save him, but he was pronounced dead at the scene at around 12:30 a.m.
What happened following his death?
So in the aftermath of the killing, you know, Hagar fled in a taxi to go to his friend's flat in Herne Bay, where he was soon arrested, and 2 knives, 1 bloodstained, were found. He had gone on trial accused of murder. It was on day 14 at the end of the prosecution case where he pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of excessive self-defence. He also himself, Hagar, suffered a number of injuries in the fight, including a cut to his head and a wrist fracture, which required surgery. Which was said to have, he was said to have reacted in retaliation.
You mentioned Samir there, and we've seen that his girlfriend Shannon at the time, she's been speaking to Kent Online very openly about how she's been coping with this kid. Tell us a little bit about what she said to Kent Online.
Yeah, so Shannon had described him as her best friend and a lovely boy with whom she had shared future hopes and dreams. She said, "He encouraged me and wanted the best for me, and he made me so happy, and when I think of him, it makes me smile. He wanted to settle down, get married and have a baby, get away from the tents and start a new life. We had the best time together. I loved him. He was so caring. I introduced him to my family and everyone loved him. They loved him too. This has broken me."
Maisie, thank you very much for coming in and providing all those updates. As mentioned, this is obviously covered on Kent Online, so any further details can be looked at there. Maisie, thank you very much. Now, stick around after the show for a Kent Tonight special, where we're looking at the increase in meat smuggling at the port of Dover. In September, the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee released a damning report titled "Biosecurity at the Border: Britain's Illegal Meat Crisis." It listed a number of failures at the border, which have created what they've called a superhighway of meat illegally coming into the country. Josh McMinn has this report.
One of the reasons so much illegal meat is getting through is because of problems here at the Port of Dover. Port authorities can only check a small proportion of the trucks that come through their gates. Other drivers will get a text message telling them to drive to Sevington, 20 miles away. Let's go check it out. Now you might be thinking, what's to stop drivers from offloading their illegal meat on this drive between the 2 sites? Well, nothing. And this is something that the port authorities are really worried about. Lucy Manzano, head of Port Health and Public Protection, said it was like going to the airport without having your carry-on bags checked. So the numbers we have for illegal meat imports might be way less than what's actually entering the country. But how is this influx of cheap, unregulated meat affecting local businesses? We spoke to William Ross, who runs the Tartan Butchers in Faversham.
There was a particular time, I worked for a butcher's many years ago, maybe about 7 years ago, and there was a gentleman who turned up in a black Range Rover, and he approached, I was manager of the shop at the time, and he approached me, he said, "I've got a pallet of this, pallet of this." The gentleman was not involved in the meat trade. I wouldn't buy from him because I stick with the people I know, sell quality, and that's it. But and I said to him, "Where are you getting it?" And he wouldn't tell me where it's from. But if a gentleman like that on the street is just buying pallets of meat, there's no traceability, no nothing. We buy from trusted people on the market, people I've dealt with for 10 to 15 years, and I wouldn't buy my meat anywhere else. It's not safe.
The government's report into meat smuggling says there are still intelligence gaps about where illegal meat is being sold. So what can you do to make sure you're eating good quality meat?
We, as consumers of the meat product that we do, the carnivores, we have to buy from trusted sources. There's something in a butcher shop that is about pride. If everybody shopped at a butcher shop and ate every possible bit of the animal rather than picking your cherry cuts, such as your fillet, your sirloin, things like that, meat would become a lot affordable. It would stop people trying to make a quick bit of money on meat.
While consumers can be careful not to buy untraceable meat, it's still ultimately up to the government to stop it from getting here in the first place.
And you can catch the rest of Josh McMinn and the rest of that Kent Tonight special at 6:30 this evening, right here on KMTV. Now, a Kent electrician has struck the jackpot, winning £500,000 on the National Lottery. The unnamed resident in his 60s played in the Thunderball draw and will be using the prize money to travel the world. He said, "It has given me the opportunity to help my family and to do more of what I love, which is to travel. Perhaps I can now turn left on the plane." Andy Carter, Senior Winners Advisor at the National Lottery's operator Alwyn, expressed his congratulations, saying, "We are so happy that he'll be able to use his money to travel the world and to upgrade to those first-class tickets." Well, congratulations to that unnamed Kent electrician there. Now time for one last short break, but join us again for the final part of the programme, where we'll be taking a look at all the latest Kent sports news, including news from Down Under in the second Ashes test, to see how Kent's Zach Crawley fared facing the Aussie attack at the Gabba in Brisbane. We'll also have news of a historic 100-goal milestone from the county's football scene, and another look at what the weather has in store. Obviously, that fog warning just coming in the last couple of hours, so do be careful for anyone travelling overnight and into the early hours of tomorrow's commute. And as usual, we're meeting up with film expert Chris Deasy to discuss all things film, including this week's newest releases, and to put to bed that debate over whether Die Hard is a Christmas film. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. It's time to take a look at the sports news from around the county.
Kent cricket's Zach Crawley contributed to a much-needed 76 to help England on an enthralling first day of the second test in the Ashes. Much scrutiny has been placed on the opener after he registered a pair in England's first test defeat against the Aussies in Perth. He could have been caught behind off Michael Nesser had Australia appealed in a frantic first 4 overs, which saw England reduced to 5-4-2. All the headlines, however, will go to fellow top-order batsman Joe Root, who finally made his first century down under. England will begin day 2 at the Gabba on 325 for 9. Former Kent captain Beaumont, who now plays her cricket for the Blaze, has a 1-year central contract from the England and Wales Cricket Board, whilst Maidstone-born MacDonald Gay, who also came through the Kent talent pathway and made 23 first-team appearances from 2019 until 2023, has been awarded a skills contract. Managing Director of England Women, Claire Connor, said, "It's an immensely exciting year ahead, with the focus firmly on winning the ICC Women's T20 World Cup on home soil next summer. And in golf, 11 players will fly the flag for Kent in the South East squad in the next year as part of the 2025-26 regional squad for England Golf. It will be the joint most from any county along with Yorkshire. Golfers from Rochester, Cobham Park, Knoll Park, Dartford, Littlestone, Wilderness, Langley Park, Chart Hills and Chesfield Lakes golf clubs have all been included." And finally to football, Ashford United goal-scoring machine Gary Lockyer has reached a milestone for his hometown club. His fine strike against local rival Sheppey brought up 100 goals for the striker. The match ended 1-1, but for the 32-year-old, he said it felt like his goal was as special as his first. And for now, that's all on sport.
Now, in the last couple of hours, forecasters have issued a yellow weather warning for fog across parts of Kent. The Met Office alert is in place from midnight until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and people are being warned that there may be travel delays in the morning. For the rest of the weather, let's take a look. Pretty chilly overnight, highs of 5 in Dover, lows of 2 in Ashford. Going even lower in Maidstone tomorrow morning, wind speeds of 5 and 6 miles per hour. That going up to 13 and 14 miles per hour in the east and the west, going up to 9 degrees in Maidstone and Dover and Dartford. Looking ahead to the weekend, pretty drizzly throughout, highs of 14 on Sunday, overcast from Monday. So a pretty good excuse to head to the cinema this weekend. And speaking of cinema, well, Christmas is obviously a time for coming together. Families across Kent will also, however, be contesting whether it's games, who gets the last roastie, or as we've been asking shoppers, is Die Hard a Christmas film? Let's take a look.
100%. Yeah. It's a Christmas film. Do I think it's a Christmas movie? It has Christmas in it, but it's an all-year-round film. So I'll hit you with a counter question. Is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween film, or is it a Christmas film?
Gruesome, really, I think. No, it's not really my taste at Christmas. Although I think there are too many Christmas films at Christmas. They should vary for the population.
It's one of those debates, Chris, that's raged on since it came out in the first place. And there's a study by the British Board of Film Classification. We can come on to some of those findings in a sec. But is it a Christmas film?
Well, Macaulay Culkin says no, and of course he was in Home Alone, which came out the same year.
He's a pretty good authority on it.
Well, this week he apparently said no, and The Guardian reported this as if to say, well, he's pronounced no. So they took this very seriously, and Home Alone came out in the same year as Die Hard 2. Now, I would say yes. I would say it's the quintessential Christmas movie because he's getting home for Christmas to be reunited with his family. It's all about transformation and redemption. He puts himself through sacrifice in order to be with his family. And it's about a shot at redemption. It's almost like a complete, arsenal of this. But also, it's all about the lonely, the lonely, in this case, he's the cop. He's isolated, old-fashioned in some ways, seen to be burnt out, but looking for that moment of grace. And he gets it in order effectively to save Christmas. The entire film is set on Christmas Eve. And it's that whole lesson here about whether you effectively treat Christmas as just another day and it's about business or something more sacred. And then there's that famous scene when Holly, appropriately named, and then attacks the journalist, who of course is exploiting the fact that the children are away. And it finishes with Vaughan Monroe's Let It Snow.
Now, we talked about that survey, pretty much hot off the press, last few days that has come out. Let's have a look at what the British public have said. 44% didn't believe that Die Hard was a Christmas film. 38% defended it as a Christmas film. 5% even choosing it as their favourite, and 17% undecided on its classification. We're talking a little bit about it there, that, Christmas is about coming together, but in the spirit of contest as well. Why is it so divisive?
Well, I think one reason is when it came out, now wait for this, in 1988 in America, it was the summer blockbuster.
Right.
And it came out in February of '89 over here. In 1990, both in the UK and the US, Die Hard 2 was summer blockbusters. So, and they're both Christmas themed. So I think that's what's confused people. They were not originally, it wasn't originally seen as being Christmas specific. But now there are some cinemas, Cineworld, for example, is showing it next, I think, Tuesday. Also, wait for this, a Christmas Eve double bill together with Love Actually.
And it's quite, it is one of those heated debates among many fans, not just Die Hard, but films generally, and whether they do meet that Christmas genre. It's a Wonderful Life, famously, and you've got other films like Violent Night in more recent years that are set at Christmas, but not quite in the spirit of a family Christmas film.
Well, It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas retrospective. Only about a third of the film is set on Christmas itself. It's somebody's life story. I mean, you can say the same about Dickens's A Christmas Carol. A lot of it is one man reviewing his life, but he's doing it in a reverie on Christmas Eve. So the definition of what makes a Christmas movie, I mean, to be honest, a film like Groundhog Day also meets the criteria of Christmas movie, but it's set on the 2nd of February. So the question is, could you have Die Hard set at Christmas or at Easter? And would it be the same film? I'm inclined to say no.
Now, Chris, you've written books on these sorts of topics, on like culture at Christmas, films at Christmas. What drew you to that area of research and that interest in the first place?
Because I always found it really hard to know what Christmas was. People would say it's all about the Nativity, it's all about Jesus. Other people would say it's all about money. Other people would say it's all about family. I once asked some students who were doing religious studies what Christmas meant to them. One of them said going to church, one said clubbing, others said going, meeting family and partying. So in other words, it means different things to different people. And in a way, you look at things like the TV and radio schedules, often they're about having those big blockbuster films. E.T. was premiered on TV, I think in 1990 on TV, Back to the Future, Batman in 1991, just 2 years after the summer blockbuster. So it's associated with all sorts of different things for different people. For a lot of people, and that's why I wanted to study it, it's about bringing people together who are separated, often virtually through radio. So it's a way of saying people need connection, and if they can't find it, then Christmas brings everything into sharp relief. But it's almost like a secular festival, but which is all about transformation and the supernatural, because all these films are about Lapland, not Die Hard perhaps, but a lot of these films involve flying reindeer. And it's almost like we're parking the fact that we don't subscribe to something that is, other than rational at any other point in the year.
So for you, what is your go-to at Christmas? I imagine it's the whole, it's all of the whole host of them. But for you, what is your favourite Christmas film?
I would say, Family Stone increasingly is one that matters. And because Diane Keaton passed away just the other month, and it's a film, she's the matriarch in a family, and they're a very disunited family, we can all relate to that. but the unexpected happens. But it happens in a very small scale, nothing like Die Hard way. And it's just about people who don't normally get on together suddenly through her passing, her character's passing, suddenly find the meaning of Christmas.
Now, you're talking about the release dates and how that's so essential. One that absolutely blitzed the box office is the sequel to Wicked. Talk a bit about the timing of releases and how it's really... It is the tentpole season for a lot of studios, but also it gets into award season as well. It's a really interesting time.
Yeah, it is, because the cut-off for Oscars is actually in America Christmas Day. Now, Christmas Day here is the one day when the cinemas are closed, as I know from experience. But in America, that's the cut-off for films to be included in the award. Now, last year, Wicked was up for several Oscars. It won Oscars, including, I think, makeup. But it was released right at the end of November. So... normally, a Christmas-themed film will... I mean, actually, I suppose famously, Miracle on 34th Street, the original from '47, Fred Gwynne won the Oscar for Best Actor. But it's unusual for a Christmas film to do well in the Academy Awards. But films released around Christmas, as you say, are often then at the very height of the expectations around award season in the run-up to the Oscars, which are normally around March.
And we've only got a few seconds left, but let's talk a little bit about Wicked and the success that it's had at the box office. We always hear perennially musicals are dead, but it seems they're not. We always see these kind of examples.
And you just got to see the number of people in the cinema. I've seen it twice with my children. And you're right, people go along and they love the musical numbers. In a way, it's a renaissance of a genre that, we often think back Mary Poppins or Sound of Music in the mid-1960s. No, I think